The narcissist had nothing, but still acted like a king. The most toxic kind of financial abuser. There is perhaps no figure more quietly destructive than a narcissistic man with empty pockets and a grand sense of entitlement. He won't shout commands or demand direct control over your finances. Instead, like a silent infestation, he burrows into your life, slowly draining you of every resource you have. You won't even realize what's happened until you're left hollowed out, financially, emotionally, spiritually. His presence isn't just a weight you carry. It's a calculated erosion of your stability, a slow financial extinction masked as a relationship. This is not a man who steps up. No, he thrives in the role of the eternal victim. He's mastered the art of passive manipulation, always implying that the world has wronged him, that he deserves more, that you owe him because life hasn't been fair. And while he laments his fate, you, his wife, become the labor force behind his fantasy. He turns you into a workhorse, pushing you to grind endlessly while painting a picture of abundance he did nothing to earn. Money comes in, yes, but only because you're the one out there fighting to keep the lights on. Meanwhile, he burns through it like it's air, thoughtlessly, carelessly, without a single ounce of gratitude. He contributes nothing and takes everything. Accountability, foreign concept. Responsibility, not his concern. All that matters to him is preserving his comfort, his image, and his personal pleasures, no matter what it costs. And the cost is high. Your exhaustion, your children's unmet needs. A home crumbling under the weight of one-sided effort. Is not a partner. He's a parasite wrapped in charm and denial. He hides in plain sight. He's the man who never gets called out because his weaponized helplessness, because he's trained everyone to believe he's just struggling or doing his best. But what he's really doing is expertly manipulating the system of your household to ensure he does the least while benefiting the most. And this brings us to the type of narcissist no one seems to talk about, what I call the sleeping king. He lives like royalty on the back of your suffering. His days begin at his leisure, no alarms, no urgency. While you're rushing through the chaos of life, prepping meals, getting kids ready, managing work, managing everything, he stretches, yawns, and floats back into sleep without a care in the world. His rest is sacred. Your exhaustion, irrelevant. You don't get to collapse. He does. He doesn't help with the children. He doesn't clean, cook, or lift a finger to keep things moving. And when he does rise, it's to criticize the very meals you've cooked, only to disappear again into the safe cocoon of his selfishness. In his mind, this is your role, to serve, to sacrifice, to orbit around his inflated ego. But God forbid you speak up. The moment you challenge this imbalance, you're met not with reflection or change, but with emotional warfare. He'll twist the story, flip the script, and have you second-guessing your sanity. You'll end up apologizing for asking for help. His indifference isn't random. It's strategic. The less he does, the more you're forced to overfunction. And that keeps the entire household centered around him. A king who rules without lifting a sword. Still wondering where your money goes. Don't assume it's being used wisely. That man will skip your child's school fees to buy himself designer shoes. He'll ignore the unpaid electricity bill in favor of a flashy watch. He invests in nothing but his image, because he doesn't work, and looking successful is the only currency he has left. Meanwhile, you're scraping by, hoping your children will eat, praying the roof won't cave in, and all the while, he's polishing a fantasy life built entirely on your back. This is what I mean by cheap man syndrome. It's not just about being broke, it's about being entitled to your labor, your money, your life, while giving absolutely nothing in return. And yet, somehow, he still sees himself as royalty. That's the most dangerous kind of delusion. He has an explanation for everything. Every unnecessary expense, every reckless purchase, every impulse buy that leaves the family scraping for essentials. He'll justify them all. And when you question him, not with anger but out of genuine concern for basic needs like food or bills, he'll dismiss you with cruel condescension. You're too negative. Why are you always so sensitive? That's the gaslight he uses to distort your reality. His indulgence is framed as necessity, your hunger as overreaction. His spending swings from famine to feast with no warning. One day he's dramatically announcing, "We're broke, we have nothing," refusing to spend a cent even on urgent needs. The next day, he's blowing through cash like it's water. New gadgets, new clothes, flashy meals, all in the name of instant gratification. He has no relationship with saving, no concept of long-term responsibility. But when the financial consequences crash down, he's not the problem. He never is. The blame gets scattered everywhere. It's the system, it's his boss, it's the economy, it's you. Everyone is to blame, except him, the man actually lighting the match. And if there are children in the house, they become the quiet casualties of this chaos. If their mother can't keep the house financially afloat alone, these children are forced to grow up fast. They don't get a carefree childhood. They don't get to be shielded or protected. They learn early on that if they want anything, school supplies, clothes, food, they'll have to fight for it themselves because their father will never provide. These are the kids who start working young, who carry the weight of responsibilities no child should ever know. And the damage doesn't end in childhood, it follows them. It carves deep grooves into their adulthood. Some grow up hyper-independent, obsessed with financial control, because they can't bear the thought of ever being vulnerable again. Others fall into the same trap they witnessed, repeating the only model of masculinity they were exposed to, the entitled, non-contributing, blame-shifting narcissist. And when you confront this man, when you finally dare to say, "Why aren't you contributing?" he doesn't take accountability. No, he performs. Suddenly, he is the wounded one. He is the victim of your cruelty. You see the theatrics unfold like a well-rehearsed scene. The heavy sighs, the trembling hands, the dramatic declarations. "You want me dead. Is that it? You don't care what happens to me." He might even slam money on the table, throwing a few bills at you in fury. "Take it. Is this what you want? You only care about money." As if your request for basic responsibility is an act of betrayal. What's worse is when he weaponizes guilt to the point where you end up apologizing for expecting him to do the bare minimum. Suddenly, you're comforting him in a moment that should have been about accountability. The topic you raised vanishes, replaced by a crisis is manufactured, one where he's center stage and you're the villain. And so the cycle goes. You try to hold him accountable, and he emotionally blackmails you back into silence. No matter how many times you try to break the loop, his skill at shifting blame and painting himself as the wounded party keeps you locked in. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know this? Because I've lived it. I've seen it firsthand. My maternal grandfather was this man, and he still is. A narcissist who spent his entire life exploiting, draining, and manipulating everyone around him, especially his own children. My mother, who herself became a narcissist, was one of his primary targets. He trained people to earn for him, to sacrifice their joy for his comfort. And the aftermath of his selfishness was devastating. His children suffered, all of them. And that legacy of financial trauma continues like a curse passed down through generations. These children were never really raised. They grew themselves up in a world that felt more like a battlefield than a home, one where safety was a luxury and survival a daily task. A narcissist like this doesn't just damage one person. He contaminates entire bloodlines. His selfishness isn't a one-time betrayal. It's a generational curse. The emotional and financial instability he creates clings to his children like a shadow, trailing them into adulthood and often creeping its way into the next generation. He doesn't simply fail, he dismantles futures. Not just a man with a cheap mindset. This is something far darker, far more destructive. What we're really looking at here is a parasitic existence. A man like this is not merely irresponsible. He is a financial predator. He does not support, build, or uplift. He grooms people, especially women, to believe that saving him is love, that enabling him is loyalty. He contributes nothing, yet expects everything. And no matter how much you earn, it will never be enough. Because the problem isn't lack of money. The problem is his complete absence of will to contribute, his allergy to responsibility, and his refusal to be held accountable. And then there's the twisted part. He will manipulate you into fixing his life. If he's drowning in debt, you will bail him out. If his car is falling apart, you will get it repaired. If he's spiraling into chaos, your presence will bring order. And once he has benefited from your emotional and financial labor, do you think he will be grateful? Thankful? Moved? No, he will rage. You see, gratitude isn't in his vocabulary. What fills his lungs instead is shame, deep, rotting shame that mutates into silent hatred for the very person who saved him. Your competence offends him. Your stability triggers him. Your ability to earn, to be respected, to be seen, he despises it. And rather than rise to meet your strength, he will try to tear it down. He becomes bitter, resentful, envious. Not just silently, but actively, through put-downs, sabotage, dismissive comments, and deliberate cruelty. Even as he does nothing, he still cannot bear the thought of you being seen as the strong one. He needs others to believe the lie that he's the one holding the house together. Ask him what he does for work and you'll hear stories. I've launched a startup, it's in progress, or I'm working on something big. But behind closed doors, he's doing nothing. He sleeps, he eats, and he drains the life out of his family while spinning illusions to the outside world. If you've seen this pattern play out in your own life, dear survivor, understand this. He will not change. He will not wake up one day struck by a sudden wave of responsibility. He will not become the partner you needed all along. His manipulation will take many forms: tears, tantrums, blame, silence, threats, but all are designed to trap you into a life of endless sacrifice while he remains emotionally, physically, and financially idle. You must understand, your financial stability, your children's future, and your mental peace depend on one hard decision: to walk away. To see through his performance, his helplessness, his dramatic claims of victimhood, and to choose yourself over his never-ending need. Because this isn't cheap man's syndrome. This is destruction masquerading as dependence. It is an emotional con game wrapped in cries for help. And the only way to survive it is to leave it. Leave before you are drained beyond repair. Leave while you still have the strength to rebuild. And with that, we'll bring this episode to a close. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Until next time, as always, let the healing begin and continue.